Memphis City Council's Budget Committee for our 2024 budget hearings. Ms. Owens, would you conduct a roll call, please?
Councilwoman Logan. Present. Councilman Warren. Present. Councilwoman Robinson. Councilwoman Johnson. Chair Jones.
Present. Just a reminder. There's a ceiling up there. Don't want you to hit your head.
Sit with you.
Okay. Well, we'll start with the city attorney. Attorney Sink, welcome and good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Jennifer Sink, Chief Legal Officer, 125 North Main. Pleasure to be here. I do have behind me several members of the team and leadership in the city attorney's office, and they are back there. They don't want to sit in the front row. I do have a few brave souls here in the front row, but obviously all of them.
I see a stranger back there.
Okay. Okay, let me start in this first row here. I'll have them stand up and introduce themselves. Right here. Yeah, go ahead.
Michael Fletcher, the Deputy City Attorney. Bill Morrison, Risk Manager.
So those are my deputies and various administrators and office critical office leadership. So this is the City Attorney Division fiscal year 2024 operating budget request. Our organizational chart is pretty straightforward. So today I'll be presenting the City Attorney budget, but I also will be presenting the Metro Alarm budget, which has a separate legal level. Just as a reminder, the City Attorney's Office is not just attorneys. We're comprised of much more, but within the attorneys, we have litigators and we have contract attorneys and we have city prosecutors who are in city court defending or prosecuting court code ordinance violations. We also handle public records requests. We have risk management, who they're tasked with protecting our assets through loss prevention control, handling of claims through insurance, which we carry a number of insurance policies, and they also help to set insurance requirements on our contracts with our vendors. We have our claims department, which handles and processes claims that are made against the city in a pre-litigation stage. So, example, I have a pothole, there's a car accident, one of them involved one of your employees, property damage, things of that nature. Our permits office is responsible for issuing a number of permits, everything from beer permits to special events permits, parade permits, regulating a variety of industries under our ordinances, such as the towing industry. And the ethics office, the chief ethics officer, which is selected by the ethics board pursuant to our ordinance, is also under our purview. So our strategic priorities, they don't really change from year to year. I mean, ultimately, we are defending and prosecuting legal claims and code violations on behalf of the city. We provide legal counsel to all the divisions of city government on a variety of different matters, everything from personnel to compliance issues, contracts, MOUs, and other types of projects. Blight remediation is one of our priorities in creating safe and vibrant neighborhoods. We do that through code enforcement prosecutions, and we also do that by partnering through a grant program with the University of Memphis law students, and they have a clinic that they run, and every year file and over 100 cases a year in order to help us with blight remediation. Mentioned before, protection of our assets through risk management, loss prevention control, and subrogation, and just doing what we can to facilitate a really efficient, customer-friendly operation and support the divisions. Just some things I wanted to highlight because we do handle a lot. I've included in this slide, and this is just fiscal year to date. We have reviewed and executed over 1,800 contracts. We have received almost 7,000 public records requests and have closed about half of them. We currently have about 262 pending legal matters that we are representing the city in defending. We've closed 822 claims against the city, and over 3,500 permits have been issued to date. So our expenditure discussion. So our budget that we're presenting today is essentially flat compared to the fiscal year 23 adopted budget. There is a increase that we're seeing in the personnel line that is essentially attributed to the mayor's budget proposal of a 2% increase for all the general employees and some other elements that are basically controlled by HR, the finance division, such as the increase in healthcare and whatnot. We did have a slight increase under our M&S expense related to insurance, but we basically mitigated that with some deductions in some other areas. So our overall budget request is higher by slightly under $75,000 as compared to our adopted budget of last year. This slide just is kind of just another representation of that figure. Since we're just one legal level, it is again representing just what our adopted budget is in comparison to our request. More specific in terms of fiscal year 24 year-over-year changes. Pardon me. This does break it down so you can see how we reached that net change of $74,428. As I mentioned, we are expecting an increase in our insurance of approximately $222,000, but we've decreased in some other areas, and so that's why we have the minimal net change. In terms of revenue, we are not exactly a revenue-producing division. I do want to say that we are responsible for some collections that are not necessarily attributed to our office for revenue, but for example, our permits office to date has collected almost $550,000 with respect to various taxes like the beer privilege tax, alcohol commission fines, liquor by the drink taxes, and various permitting fees. We also do collect money. We recover money through subrogation efforts, as well as we're involved in any collections for the Airbnb. This reflects that the Metro Alarm provides the legal department with a $25,000 transfer because we give legal support to their operations. For our division detail information and our personnel information specifically, no change in our authorized complement this year. Everything remains the same. Our vacant positions are definitely a little high. We actually have at least one of maybe two positions not reflected here that are filled. And mainly the reason for that is we've had some turnover from the DA's office has been very aggressive in acquiring very talented lawyers, and so we have lost some lawyers, and so we're doing our best to fill the gaps, and we are actively pursuing attorneys. Yes, sir. Okay, you want me to? Okay, I didn't hear the question, but I'll go on. Okay, our M&S. These are our major material and supplies expenditures. The law division is responsible for determining and purchasing insurance policies for the benefit and use of the city. The cost this year is up by approximately $222,000 estimated for next year compared to last year. We have a variety of policies that we carry. Our largest one, of course, is our property insurance. Legal services and court costs, these other figures are remaining flat as compared to last year. Just as a reminder, our court costs are about $1.2, $1.3 million, and these are the statutorily required costs to file in court delinquent tax type of or tax sales type of endeavors. And so this is not all legal services. The $1.8 million for miscellaneous professional services will be more detailed on the next line. Compliance monitoring refers to the federal court mandated monitoring team that continues to be in effect. And then we have a few other kind of miscellaneous M&S expenses. Again, except for the insurance increase, this remains flat as compared to the last budget. So this slide breaks down the reference on the previous slide to the miscellaneous professional services. The bulk of this is money that we pay to the Shelby County trustee to assist us in the delinquent tax collections. There's a variety of other miscellaneous types of expenses that are listed here. We do have one lease. Our permits office is located in the Union Extended building. They've been there for quite some time, and this is our lease. We do share that as needed with finance, so that when they need to make it available to the public to drop off their tax payments there, and that seems to be a very it's great parking over there, very convenient location for a lot of people. Our MWBE utilization, this is as of December 31st, 2022. So basically for the up through Q2 for this year, we have a certified spend is 22.09%. Our non-certified spend is 11.32% for a total of 33.41%. So at this point, I would move on to the Metro Alarm Fund budget. Just as a reminder, this is a self-sustaining special revenue fund. So they collect various fines and fees, and that is the source of their money to use to fund their personnel. A large part of the money that they bring in, though, is transferred to fire and police to mitigate their costs in responding to false alarm calls. And their strategic priority is to really reduce the number of false alarms through enforcement of the Metro Alarms Ordinance that the council passed. This is a breakdown of their budget. Slightly higher than last year, but as I said, it's self-sustaining. The personnel services have gone up marginally, and you will see, though, I note you to the total transfers out. So what they're expecting to be able to transfer out to police and fire is reflected on this $1,625,000 line. So from that line, legal will likely get $25,000, and then $1.6 million of their fund will be transferred out to police and fire. And that concludes the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Chief Sink, we have questions from Councilpersons Warren, Logan, and Smiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What is subrogation in English for non-lawyers?
Cost recovery, insurance recovery.
And not just insurance recovery, although that is a big part, but for example, if we need to recover money from an employee or a former employee, if there was, and so sometimes we try to collect.
You do that by going to court?
If we have to, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And what is our city's reinsurance for catastrophic legal expense? Like say we just happen to get sued for $800 million or something like that.
Well, that has to be really addressed on a case-by-case basis.
Do we have like a special insurance policy that covers
No.
excess loss?
We're we're basically self-insured with respect to lawsuit judgments and settlements.
So I know when we were on the school board, we had a special account for like catastrophic, cases or something along that line. And I know hospitals and systems have that, but we don't have that because we can't get it, or we didn't want to pay for it.
Well, why we don't have it, I don't know that we've ever, I'm not familiar with us really looking at that, but we do have, one of our considerations is that we do have some immunity laws, we have some caps under laws, so a large number of our cases are either capped, or the value of an insurance policy just would not.
So what are the
beneficial.
caps that we have?
Well, under Tennessee law, there's a cap for tort liability claims, essentially $300,000 to $750,000, depending upon if there's more than one person involved, for example.
What about caps on wrongful death claims?
There's no caps on that. That's right.
So I guess that's what I'm looking at, is if we've got, we're being sued now, so it's too late, but if we had other things, I mean, is there a reason that we wouldn't consider that? Because, if we do lose a large claim like that, that's a huge amount out of our budget. I don't know, I guess that's a Lloyd's of London type reinsurance policy. It would be expensive, but I don't know who makes the decision about whether we get that. Is this an administrative decision?
It's an administrative decision, and I don't have a problem looking into what options there may be with the help of my risk manager.
I just think that, as we go forward, that may be something. It's sort of just like we have earthquake insurance. It's a very rare thing, but if it happens, it's catastrophic. So you consider whether you want to get that, depending on whether you're near a fault, or tornado insurance, or things that are not likely to happen, but if they do, they're catastrophic. I'm just wondering, as we move forward, do we need to consider that? So I'll leave that for council members to think about too. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Logan.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Attorney Singh, for the presentation. My question is the strategic priorities number 1 and 3. Are those addressed under the grants and subsidies, professional services for the law students regarding blight and remediation support?
Well, specific to blight remediation and code enforcement. So we have internal resources that we use for code enforcement type prosecutions, but we also have a relationship and have had one with the University of Memphis Law School, and we provide them with a grant, and they have a clinic that they run with the students throughout the year. They have on staff a full-time attorney and a full-time paralegal. And we work with them, and they basically involve these law students, and they file and continue to follow up on Neighborhood Preservation Act lawsuits, which are in environmental court. And the results that they get are really phenomenal. I really would love to have them come in and give you all a presentation. But so, for example, last fiscal year, they filed 158 cases, and they closed 165. Of those, almost 50% were closed because they were able to engage the owner in a successful rehabilitation process, which is really their goal. Sometimes there are other results, but that's their goal. They want the owner to be lifted up and be able to rehab and maintain the home. This year, the data is they've filed 102 cases this fiscal year. They've closed 120, and of those, 63% were closed because they were able to successfully have an owner rehabilitation outcome. And so that partnership is really, truly very beneficial. and they do some amazing things. So we support code enforcement, as they need. We set up about 3 or 4 years ago. We created a job position that is operating within Public Works, the code enforcement prosecutor position, and is jointly supervised by myself and the director of Public Works. And that person is very involved with code enforcement and court actions or administrative actions that we may take, like administrative condemnation, for example.
So I think that might be the position I'm thinking about. How many of those do we have? Is it 1 or 2?
We have one code enforcement prosecutor, and then within the legal division, we have 2 what we call blight prosecutors who are also actively involved in environmental court and doing the same types of cases like that our law clinic is doing. So internally, we have resources and devoted funds, and then we have this grant program, and we work closely with the law students.
So does this reflect any dollars going to add on to those prosecutors? Because, we've had a number of cases that have been going on and on and on forever in environmental court. And I think making certain that we have enough prosecutors was one of the recommendations, or that there was support in helping with that in that area. Does this reflect including any more staff members or prosecutors or staff in your area for that?
Well, so within my budget, with my personnel budget, it reflects the salaries for the 2 positions for the blight prosecutors, so I don't know if that answered your question, but that's what my budget contains. Also, there is I forgot to add, we also work with the DA's office, because through the creation of the environmental court, the DA's office is also participates in prosecuting those cases. And so the DA's office has, I believe, 3 or 4 prosecutors that are assigned and rotate through environmental court. So it's very collaborative in the approach. And our internal code enforcement prosecutor is involved and can ask for resources, but is handling, because we also try to handle things administratively that we can handle administratively.
May I make a comment there? Shandell Ryan, Chief Operating Officer. So I think the ones that you're talking about are the ADAs, and she spoke about those with the DA. And I do know that the Public Works Director has been having conversation with the DA to have more, to ask for those prosecutors to take on a bit more for the city of Memphis. They have a little bit more, they have more tools in their toolkit than we do. So we're really trying to lean into them to help support this effort a bit more. And there's been a commitment, to my understanding, to looking at how they can do that more. I think that's what they were talking about, though, in the Blight Task Force, the ADAs.
Okay, sounds good.
Yes.
Is that 225, and thank you for that, G1, the 225,000, is that an annual, or is that just for this year?
It's annual. So we have a contract for the grant agreement with the university, and I believe that was started in 2015, and so they used those funds just for the support staff that I mentioned, a full-time attorney and a full-time paralegal, and so yeah, that's an annual contract. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And thank you to Chief Ryan. Thank you for clarifying that. And I will say, Councilwoman, actually, we just had a meeting yesterday. I was not able to attend that because of all the meetings, but there was a meeting yesterday with DA Mulroy and his deputy, which was the second meeting we've had about how can we help facilitate an even more proactive process.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. Keep us posted.
I'd be happy to.
All right.
Council Vice Chair Smiley.
Thank you. So thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is more so, we have 8 vacancies. I want to see a comparison between the salaries that we pay our city attorneys and the people who are poaching our valued employees. Is there?
I've been trying to get that information, and I'm not quite clear what the salary range is. So
Shouldn't most of it be public? Most of it
I
public
would think
information?
so, but I've been having a hard time with that myself. I think it's fair to say that right now, it is hard. I'm having a hard time competing with even other government agencies.
So, I mean, I understand. And I think one of the things I want to look at, because when the new DA took office, there was a large exodus from that particular office, but those positions were filled rather quickly. And while we're still struggling to keep our positions filled, so I really would like to see, before I wrap up, a comparison between this is what the county attorneys pay, this is what the district attorney pay, this is what the public defender pay, and we're no shade toward the public defender, but if our salaries are comparable to the public defender, we need to do something significantly different, because we do want the best working for the city of Memphis. So I guess sometime toward budget wrap up, see if we can get that comparison. If we have any difficulty from District Attorney Steve Moore, I think we can get him to give us some salary information.
Yeah, I will see what I can find. I think that right now the market is just a struggle, and I've heard everyone, a lot of people say this for different reasons, and we've had a lot of people who also have left for other reasons too, and they've had some they have had great opportunities presented to them. So and we have a lot of great talent within the legal department now. And so I definitely want to keep the talent that I have and attract as much talent as I can.
Yeah, so I think we on the same page in terms of they're going to great opportunities. I think my position and our position has to be, we want to make working in the city attorney's office a great opportunity as well. We want people to say, okay, I can grow here. I'm not going to be paid pennies when doing this work. It requires a significant amount of thought power to get things done. So hopefully I can get that information before budget wrap up, and hopefully we can provide some support for your office.
Okay, any other questions? Chief Sink, I had a couple of questions here. So along those lines too, well, let me go to page 13, looking at your vacancies, your vacant positions. I know that everyone in your office is an attorney, but how many of those would be attorneys? Do you know offhand?
That are vacant?
Yes.
Most of them, but I think there might be two that are not. So I think it's either 2 or 3 of the. So if I've got 8 vacancies, either 2 or 3 of these are non-attorneys.
So going back to Ms. Vice Chairman Smiley's contention, do you think that your pay, if we're looking at an increase of only $75,000 for personnel expense, do you think that your pay is going to be competitive in order to fill those positions?
No.
I think that.
See what happened was.
No, it's the answer.
I think we have challenges, but I think every division has the same challenges. Just because it's attorneys or not. I mean, obviously, I cannot compete with private firms. So I'm not even trying to do that at all. But
we should be able to compete with the district attorney's office. We should be able to compete with the county attorney's office. I know where Chairman Jones is going with this. And I think
everybody who's been paying attention to budget knows where I'm going with this.
Okay, so it's hard for us to put a particular number on our wish list. And for those of you who haven't been paying attention to budget, wish list is things council wants to see happen. And then we get to the wrap up portion of our budget. we either amend or we scratch it. And I already know the wish list is we're going to add more to the personnel service line so that we are able to pay a competitive salary to everyone who works in the city attorney's office. But it's hard to do that when we don't know, what the other entities in our surrounding areas are paying. But you're talking about 6. Let me ask you this question.
No, go ahead.
Okay. What is the normal starting salary for city attorneys?
Right now, I think the lowest starting salary is, I think the lowest that we is like 68,000. But on average, that would be a brand new,
This baby lawyer,
very young baby lawyer situation. So on average, I would say that that we're starting typically more about 74,000 and going up.
Now, okay, I'm gonna say it anyway. So 70 what? 74,000. Our staff makes that. Our analyst makes that salary. If we want competent lawyers to come here with experience, we want lawyers with some type of pedigree. When someone sees their name on whatever letter, they know who they're in a courtroom with. We need to be paying more than $74,000, y'all. I'm going to amend this at some point. I just need to see. I'm going to amend this. I would love to see that comparison with what the district attorney is paying, what the city attorney is paying, because we're not going to compete with Birchport, or we're not competing with any of the other large law firms, but we should be able to compete with municipalities who have attorneys as well. And I do not believe this salary is competitive. As a matter of fact, I made more than this my first year out of law school, and that was 2015. So we should do better. And I think we can. We have enough resources to do better. I think it comes in terms of what our priorities are. And I think our priorities should be good, competent legal counsel, especially when we are in the process of getting sued quite often. That's all for me.
Yeah, and so that's where I was getting to with that, Chief Think. If we see a deficit, we have to be competitive. Shortly after the pandemic, everything shut down. An attorney here said that, look, what's taking place, a lot of the Wall Street firm, New York firms, they are taking that rental expense because nobody was in the office and they're not renewing the same amount of square footage, and they're paying it to people across the country. So they could still work remotely and get close to New York pay, even if they're in Wichita. Or, that might be the case here in Memphis too. But if we're going to be competitive and we want, because I think at the end of the day, it costs taxpayers less when we have competent attorneys, whether it's subrogating claims, defending lawsuits, whatever the case may be. I think that we end up paying less in the long run if we have competent professionals doing the job. But if our pay is not competitive, we just aren't going to get there. We just aren't going to get there. So I do have concerns if you're saying that we have those vacancies and we're still having to compete with the DA, still having to compete with the public defender's office, and this budget is not allowing you to do that. I have serious concerns about that.
Well, first of all, I greatly appreciate your concerns, and especially looking out for the lawyers. And I would say also that, of course, my office is not just about lawyers. I have many other people working other capacities, and so my personnel budget reflects a lot of other types of roles.
Well, I guess where I was going though was with the vacancies. That's why I started.
Yeah.
That's why I started. But if we're going to fill those, we still have to be competitive. So so we don't have to go and look at the other positions. I started with the vacancies, and I just wanted to know if you had the resources to be competitive to fill those vacancies, because if we don't, in the long run, taxpayers end up paying more.
I think that's a valid point. I do want to note though that I don't think salary is the only challenge. I think there's the pool. There's not a large pool right now of candidates, and that is another issue. So I'm not sure if the salary changes will address the problem or not. But we're actively working on that and doing what we can to fill the vacancies. And of course, I'm very proud of the lawyers that I have right now. I think they do a great job.
Great. Going to, you mentioned the permits office and other offices, well, permits office in particular. Where are their revenues reflected? So from a revenue standpoint, we only see the Metro Alarm. Is there not revenues that we count that come into?
Not counted within my budget.
Okay.
My understanding is that they're counted into the general fund.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, great. Okay, and in the past, since I've been on the council, I've always requested what has been the legal span for outside counsel. And I'm looking at the MWBE portion now. So if we look at the expenditures, which, where were we?
Slide 18, sorry. Oops.
18.
Oh, shoot.
Okay, 15. So outside legal counsel would be included in this 4.850, right? On page 15.
On page 15, outside legal counsel would be in the legal services / court costs line.
Okay.
Yes.
So you estimated, I know, I'm not holding you to the penny or even just rounded up. Court cost that's included in here is 1.2 million. So if we subtract the 1.2 million from this 4.8, we get to about 3.6.
Yes. Can I just clarify one thing?
Sure.
The 1.2 court costs were specific to the court costs involved in the delinquent tax collection litigation.
Okay. So there are other court costs that are part of this 4.6?
Yes.
Okay. About
yes.
how much would that be?
Well, it's not just court costs, but there would be, I guess, to say, yes, the other costs related to legal services are included in this line. And that's in addition to whether or not it's something handled in-house versus by outside legal counsel. So for example, if we have to pay an expert witness fee, if we have to pay court reporter fees, if we have to pay court filing costs, those are paid out of the legal services line, in addition to outside legal counsel fees.
Okay. So if you can, your best guesstimate outside legal counsel costs total.
I don't know. I'd have
Okay.
to get back to you with that.
Okay. So if just the usual report that I've been asking
Yes.
for, that I've received since I've been on the council. Where I'm getting to is I'm on page 18 now. And so
Sorry, Councilman.
oh, no problem. So I'm always, I just don't know how many, not just yours, various divisions arrived at eligible spend, because if we're talking about the overall availability of lawyers out there, and that's $3 million, how do we get that eligible spend from, and all of them are eligible at some point, how do we get, let's just say it's 3, how do we get down from a total outside legal counsel or legal spend of 3 million, but the eligible spend is 1.6? And so if we're taking that 531, dividing it by 1.6, it gives us a 22. But if we take that 531 and divide that by 3.6, that number isn't as high. So how do we get from one to the other?
Well,
and if you don't have it before you now, but that's
well,
just a question I'm asking you.
For example, so basically any outside law firm is included in the spend, in the eligible spend. But I have some expenditures that are, for example, the statutorily required court costs of the 1.2, that is excluded. You know, that's declared, that's not within the eligible spend. And then there may be, within my budget, insurance costs are excluded. But when it comes to the expenditures related to litigation, unless there is some external requirement for payment, you know, they're going to be captured in eligible spend. And the law firms that are retained and engaged to do legal work for us are captured within the eligible spend.
Right, so the report that I usually get, I should say it's $3 million. And it's been that $3 million consistently. And I'm just talking about outside legal counsel. So if we're consistently at $3 million, how do we get from $3 million down to 1.6 eligible spend when we're talking about outside legal costs?
Well,
May I interrupt
this
really
is just
quickly?
to-
Just want to note that this is for half the year, FYI. This is for half of FY23. This is just as of December.
Okay, so when we see this, okay,
right, so this
Okay.
is the first 2 quarters spend.
gotcha, okay.
And so I think, you know, at the year end, it's going to be a much larger number.
If I double the, okay,
Yeah.
great. But the other report that I usually ask for would be helpful in
Okay.
that. Colleagues, the elephant in the room is the lawsuit, and we have not done anything to address that. And that can, you know, we already know it's a budget buster, regardless of what the amount is. How have we planned? How are we accounting for? I may not be here when it happens, but it's going to be unfair to my colleagues that are sitting on this council. If it's attorney-client that we need to have, to the public, we haven't had that yet. So it's this council needs to be at the table, part of the consideration, part of the discussions, because something like that is going to exceed whatever that line item is for that. So
That is definitely a subject for attorney-client meeting.
okay, but whether it's a subject for attorney-client, it still has to be included in the city's budget. And so I just want us to have some of those discussions.
Well, I would ask Councilman that, you know, any, even comments of that nature, I prefer
Okay.
that we keep an attorney-client meeting.
Gotcha. Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you. 2 questions. When did those vacancies for your attorneys start? How long have they been there?
We had a couple in the fall. We've had, you know, I had one attorney who passed away a couple months ago. So I just had, they're all been within the last, I would say, 7 or 8 months. So kind of correlating with the election cycle that caused some turnover.
So you attribute your loss to the election for sure?
I think that's a big part of it. We had one of our members get elected. We had another member that joined and became the CAO under Clerk Swearingen. And so there were some election results that also impacted the people who are working here. And so, and that's what we're still trying to recover from.
Okay, great. The other question I had was in reference to your grant programs assisting with the code enforcement. How do you select the individuals that you would go after, prosecute, and to get issues resolved under the blight? How is that? Because we always hear nothing is taking place in the courtroom. So how do we, I mean, now you're telling us you're there, you get X number of cases resolved. So how do you intervene in that setting?
Well, so how they get initiated can happen in a variety of ways, and we have the law clinic is really focused on what they call the Neighborhood Preservation Act. And there's a lot of out of the courtroom dialogue that is occurring, and they're dealing mainly with residential owners and homes that are falling apart. They're not dealing with homes where the grass is growing too high in violation of code. They're really focused on the homes themselves and trying to get the homeowner in a position to rehabilitate, or the land or the home if it's a tenant or whatever the case may be. So and then you've got code enforcement, which there's a relationship there, but also they are tasked with some different types of enforcement responsibilities that can be more one-offs. You've got too much trash sitting on your front lawn. You've got your grass is too high. So it really depends upon what it is, and the approach will vary. The law clinic, which we've had a relationship with since I think 2015, their goal is about really working with the property owners and getting the property fixed up. And they go through a tremendous amount of effort to do that, most of which does not occur in the court setting. It's really a lot of behind the scenes work and constantly calling and emailing the owner and trying to work with them.
Okay, that's good. I mean, this body this past week has already tried to commit to additional funds to help Judge Dandruff with similar type activities. And I would like to see how they should blend and how would one support the other one. And if you're already doing some of these things, maybe those funds could be used for something else. But this is the first time I've heard of that particular agency or what your program is doing. So I would just like to see how it can be merged to make it a better program.
Well, they work and they've got some professors that they're in the courtroom with them. They all work together.
Mm-hmm.
They really do.
Okay. I mean, it's just different. Sounds good, but we just think it probably could be more effective working together from what I'm hearing from here. Okay, thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Johnson. Councilwoman Logan. And for the record show, we've been joined by Councilwomen Sojourner Washington, and Easter Thomas.
It's MPI.
Oh, and Canal.
Did you say MPI?
The NPI, I actually was referring to the Neighborhood Preservation Act.
Okay, because NPI merged with the works, didn't they?
Yes,
And
yes.
so there's no longer the MPI, is that correct?
That's right. It's the works now. So I was referring to the legal doctrine or the legal cause of action that is filed.
Okay, so the
But that's the
Neighborhood
work that they do.
Preservation Act.
Right, right.
They are, so this money doesn't go to the works and what they're doing.
No, it does not go to the works, although we work with them as well.
Okay, and these are, I'm glad she mentioned that. So these are separate prosecutors from the ones that are in environmental court?
So our relationship with the law school is it's actually law students who are going to the courtroom, and they're supervised by licensed attorneys, and they are actively working these lawsuits, and they learn how to do it from the very beginning all the way to its fruition as much as they can possibly learn. And they go through great training, and some people even take the clinic twice. And in fact, we recently we've made a hire. She hasn't started yet, but she's going to be a blight prosecutor who went through the clinic and has been doing this work for since she graduated. So that's one resource. My office has 2 blight prosecution attorneys whose focus is blight prosecutions and environmental court. They actively work with the university. And then we have the code enforcement lawyer who is jointly supervised by myself and the director of public works. So 3 attorneys within the city. And then we collaborate and we work with the assistant district attorneys. And I believe there's around 3 or 4 of those who are under DA Mulroy, and they are assigned to environmental court. And they prosecute, basically a number of environmental court actions. So they do a lot of blight, but they're also handling prosecutions through like the animal service officers who are doing citations. So anything environmental court where they have jurisdiction, but it's a city code, they are handling, and they also work with the county code enforcement office to address their prosecutions as well.
Okay, so doesn't have anything to do in just piggybacking on what Councilwoman Johnson said. It has nothing to do with the fund that we set up.
No, and I think that that fund is really for my understanding. The purpose is that there are a lot of homeowners who they just simply cannot afford to make the rehab that's needed on their home, and so that fund would help those persons who need financial aid to get there. They're willing, they want to do it, they wish they could take better care of their home, but they just don't have the financial resources to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing no other council members wishing to speak on this item, thank you for the presentation, Chief Saint.
Okay, thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next, we have the city court clerk. Yes, sir. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, committee members and the administration. I'm Calvin Williams. This is Chief Michael Sane. We both will be conducting this session here.
Mr. Williams, if you could speak directly into the mic, please. No, hit the C button that says push.
New technology. First, before we get started, I'd like to say Clerk Myron Lowry truly wanted to be here. His wife has been going through some medical procedures, and he is at his wife's side right now. But he truly wanted to be here, and that is the only reason why he's not here. Also, saying that, let me just say this: City Court Clerk's office is a revenue-driven office, and I make those statements because the figures dictate it. In the last over 36 months, we have collected close to $30 million. We have an excellent staff, some very good employees who do the work there, and finance department, which I'm proud of because it's a department that I supervise. I had to throw that plug in there. They've been doing a really good job. Now, as far as this session here, Mr. Sane is going to lead off if you all so see fit, and I will be chiming in here and there. So,
thank you. Mr. Sane, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Michael Sane, Chief Deputy of the City Court Clerk's Office. I'll begin by going over our organizational chart. We have 2 legal levels and 3 service center levels. Our 2 legal levels, our 3 service center levels is the City Court Clerk's TVB, automated photo enhancement, and automated speed enforcement cameras.
And TVB is Traffic Violations Bureau, correct? Okay.
Yes, sir, that's correct. Our strategic goals for this fiscal year coming up will be, for the coming fiscal year, is to fill the vacant supervisor positions at a higher salary grade to ensure quality candidates, complete repairs and maintenance to the storage facilities for full operational use, replacement of outdated computers, laptops, and printing equipment, and the purchase of TDY equipment for the court clerks to assist hearing impaired and visually challenged. We also will be enhancing the communications between the court systems and ETMs, which is a software that we use to improve the efficiency and accuracy of our reporting efforts. All right, moving right along, the bridge between our expenditures for FY23 and FY24. In 2023, our funding budget for this year was $7,894,243. in 24, we're requesting $7,357,000. I'm sorry, $7,357,710, which is a decrease of $13,656. The difference in the adopted budget and the funding budget was $522,000 that was carried over from the previous year. We look at the comparative spending. The court clerks are, again, it's just a repeat of the last slide. We had total expenditures of $7,894,243. This year, for the coming fiscal year, we're asking for $7,357,710. Again, we're decreasing our expenditures by $13,656. Yes, the difference again in the adopted budget and the funding budget is a difference of $522,877 that was carried over from the previous year. At the year end, we do not receive all our invoices from our contractors, so we carry those funds over to pay them in the new fiscal year. The year-over-year changes in the expenditures to give you an idea of where that $13,656 comes from. We have potential increases in salaries in the form of 2% raise for employees at $64,405. Our healthcare expenses have increased to $58,548. We also have an increase in the pension at $21,222. There is a decrease in the salaries on the side of the part-time. That's $148,946. And we also have an out-of-rank pay decrease. We don't have anybody in that category for this fiscal year or the coming fiscal year, and that reduction is $19,147. We have a few other personnel expenses that was decreased by $8,096. We do have an increase in our miscellaneous services and charges of $18,000, and also the city shop fuel at $358, which gives you that net change of $13,656.
And also to add to that, we intend to hire some more part-time employees because we're undermanned.
Ms. Williams, will you turn the mic towards you?
I've never been accused of not being able to speak loud. So we intend to hire some more part-time people because we're undermanned in the office, and that figure where it's decreased, we will be using some of that money. Okay.
Our revenues for fiscal year 2024, we're requesting revenues in the amount of $4 million. Our previous year revenues was $3 million. The difference is about $1 million. And the year-over change in revenues is due to the speed camera activity. This year we did experience an increase in revenues because of the speed cameras. Traditionally, well, not traditionally, but the past two previous years, we were under a pandemic and schools were closed. These speed cameras are located in school zones. So when the schools open back up, we had an increase in revenue. So we anticipate another $1 million coming in on the revenue side from the speed camera activity. Moving along, our complement for the office is 58 employees. We currently have 6 vacancies. Those are due to some changes in roles for employees. We have Mr. Williams, who's serving as interim chief deputy. We also have a supervisor who's moved up to HR business partner. So we have 3 supervisor positions that are empty and vacant, and then another 1 full-time position that needs to be filled. The slide that you see before you now is a list of our expenditures. If you notice, the line item that has the bulk of our expenditures is the miscellaneous professional service. This is our contract line item for our speed cameras and photo enhancement. We also have the next line item would be the miscellaneous services that makes up 21% of our budget. We all then going on down the list, you see the percentages drop down: computers and service equipment, printing outside printing, facility structure repair outside. We have we were given the firehouse on Holmes Road. I think it's the old firehouse. They built a new one next door. That is a part of this budget here. We are yes ma'am, and Councilwoman, your note is duly your remark is duly noted. We just have to go through a bidding process for the grass cutting. From my understanding, we just can't have anybody go out and cut the grass for us. If you're willing to let us just have somebody cut it, we'd be more than happy to get it cut tomorrow. We also have outside supplies, outside postage, outside phone communications, outside equipment and repair and maintenance, travel expenses, and seminar training and education. And we also have about $6,000 in other materials and expenditures. The next slide you see is a bit of a breakdown of our materials and professional services, which include American Traffic Solutions. We have a contract with them for our photo enforcement. Those are our red light cameras. We have Conduent speed cameras. Those are the speed cameras that are within the school zone. And then we have Excel business products and all other expenses. This line item has $205,000. We've had preliminary discussions with our contract vendor about enhancing the quality of the cameras. Right now, we're having difficulty since the new tags came out, the picture quality on those cameras have been very difficult. So it's been suggested that we need to upgrade those cameras to high definition cameras, and that will help out with the collection and some of the disputes we're having over that's not my tag or that's not my vehicle. So that's some of that money in the miscellaneous area will incorporate. There will be no upfront cost to upgrade those cameras. They will just increase it to our bill. Now, we do not have any leases at this time. Again, we have the firehouse, and thank you all for that donation. And lastly, our minority participation for this current fiscal year is 1.09%. Any questions?
We have questions from Councilwoman Robinson in the queue and Logan.
Based on the changes that were made yesterday during our council meeting, we're taking a division out. How does that impact the budget that's before us today? Ms. Shirley, can you answer that?
Good afternoon, council members. Shirley Ford, Chief Financial Officer, City of Memphis. The exact amount of that, ma'am, is unknown yet because there would obviously have to be some changes. So I would refrain from putting a dollar amount on that, but a kind of a benchmark would be that division budget would just roll into finance. There may be some other ancillary issues related to that, but that this division would just roll into finance as it is right now.
Okay.
Yes,
You just roll into finance as is. So
for now.
Okay, thank you. So we'll talk about that in budget wrap up. The other question I have is about there's an organization that you are paying some kind of CSAIL. Let me find that page. Excel. So what is Excel and what are we doing with them?
Excel is where we order office supplies and different materials from. It's a site that's I guess, generated by the city of Memphis. I think other divisions also order from Excel. So any office equipment or supplies that we need that they sell, then that's where we get that equipment and supplies from.
Okay. And then on page 11, fines and forfeitures, and this is due to the speed camera activity. Can you explain that line item?
Again, the 2 previous fiscal years were under a pandemic. The schools were not open. Our speed cameras are located in the school zones to reduce the traffic speeding and to improve the safety for the children. So when schools went back in, we saw an increase in those the activity on the speed cameras. So we had more citations issued, and that increased the revenue for that line item.
So, Mr. Chair, I don't see any of our attorneys here. I just wanted to verify that are we legally collecting fines for cameras? I thought it was against state law. So can we get that information, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Yes,
And
ma'am.
that answers
We'll
my
make a note of that.
questions.
Thank you. Councilwoman Logan.
Thank you. I want to just follow up on the cameras, cameras that are mentioned here on page 17. I know you mentioned there's some in miscellaneous, but can you tell me when those were purchased? All the cameras that are mentioned on here. How long have we had those?
I do not have the exact date when we purchased the red light cameras, but we do own those cameras. It's not a lease. We just paying for the service of them. But I will, send back to all the council members
Was it
the
in
date.
the last year?
No, ma'am. We've had those
quite some
cameras for
time.
quite some time now, and that's the reason why we need to go to
Okay.
upgrade them, because they're not obsolete, but in today's technology, they pretty much obsolete, but they
Okay.
still record.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't see any. Oh, sorry. Councilwoman Johnson.
Explain to me, why are we having to pay to get grass cut over there? Was that an agreement or something?
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me. The lease agreement for the city court clerk's office and the city of Memphis to take over their fire station required us to do to maintain the building and make minor repairs. There are some significant repairs that need to be done, which we have allocated funds for that. But yeah, we are responsible for maintaining the grass and the upkeep of the building.
That's unusual, isn't it?
No, ma'am. Every division, they care for their own property within their budget line. So it's a part of their operating budget to take care for the land where they sit. But I could actually work with you all on getting a short-term grass cutting contract in place or approval to move forward with grass cutting. We can work through that.
If I may, let me add, there's also a problem in the building that we must get fixed right away. That's the roof is leaking. It's not only leaking, it has a hole in it, and the materials in the building are getting wet. Last time I was out there, there's several tickets that have been destroyed.
So we can talk about that. We can speak with the General Services Division. That would be the proper place for you to make that type of request, and we can get that with you as soon as we end this meeting.
We've
Okay.
made it.
Okay.
I thank you. I'm sure y'all can work that out. Thank you so much. Thank you both.
Mm-hmm. Seeing no other members in the queue to speak on this item, gentlemen, thank you for your presentations.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Welcome, Judge. As soon as you're all set up, introduce yourself, name for the record, and you can begin your presentation.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to this body. I'm Jane Chandler, Municipal Court Judge, Division 3, 201 Poplar Room, LL 05. And I have the privilege of being before you as in the role of administrative judge for the municipal courts. But joining me, we have Judge Cooper in the back. If you'll stand and introduce yourself. I don't know how many of you have had the opportunity to meet Judge Cooper. And Judge Cooper, as I do, felt compelled to allow her son the opportunity to come and sit with her and observe this body.
Welcome, young man.
So, can he stand up and introduce himself?
Absolutely. We would love to hear from him.
Oh, he's recording.
Welcome, young man. Yeah, where do you attend school? Crosstown, okay.
And this is Christian Kirk. She's the executive assistant for the municipal court judges. And on behalf of Judge Cooper, I'm going to say I'm mighty proud of her son because soon she gets to worry about him going on a school trip out the country.
Mm-hmm. This summer?
This summer.
Okay.
So,
congratulations.
safe travels to him.
Indeed.
And just a calming nature for Judge Cooper while he's traveling. So thank you very much. And once again, it's my privilege to be here as the administrative judge for the municipal courts to present the fiscal year 2024 operating budget request. The organizational chart, we're elected by the citizens of Memphis. There are 3 municipal court judges for Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3. Judge Hooks is the elected judge for Division 1, and Judge Cooper is for Division 2, and I'm Division 3. The strategic priorities addressed by this budget. Okay. I'll do it. Thank you. It's the priority of the municipal court judges to uphold and apply the law in a fair and impartial manner to all parties. The municipal court judges strive to promote public trust in the judicial system while remaining competent in the law. The judges' budget has remained flat. We haven't really asked for an increase. There's an increase, and it's reflected by increases from the administration based on proposed raises, healthcare costs, pension, et cetera. But our budget has remained flat, and there's no increase other than the one requested by the administration. The municipal court judges are not a revenue generating area. So there's really no discussion about revenue. We just don't generate revenue as our group, as the judges. So if you fast forward to the materials and supplies. If you look at that page, and it is page number, let me go here, 16. The largest expenditure is the travel expense. And what that is attorneys are required to have continuing legal education hours. Sir?
Absolutely bad.
Right, and we're supposed to have 15 a year. And what the Municipal Court Judge's Office has done, we formed a relationship with the National Bar Association, and we usually attend the conference, the National Bar Association Convention. And in turn, they bring the conference to Memphis. And it was not this past summer, but summer before, the National Bar Conference was in Memphis. And the revenue that the city gained was about $3 million.
I think it was last year.
It was last year? Last year, you're right. It was
we passed the resolution, remember?
Right, it was last year, and it was $3 million. So the 16,000 for $3 million
Not too bad of a trade-off.
Right, not too bad of a trade-off. That's pretty much our biggest expense, that we have. Then on the next page, you go to bridges. That's an interpretive service. Like if someone from the deaf community appears in court, we have to provide interpretation services or any other language that's not spoken. And I left out, we have on a full-time staff, a translator. And the administrative office of the courts requires us to provide translation services for people. There are no leases, and the MWBE speaks for itself. And like I said, we aren't asking for an increase, and the only increase will come from the request or ask of the administration. And that's pretty much our budget. Any questions?
Colleagues, any questions for the judge?
I have a quick question. So only 5, how many staff members?
5. It's 5, 3 judges and 2 support staff, the executive assistant and the interpreter.
So we're currently contemplating office structure change, and one of the things that we've been looking at is having a dedicated staff member per council member. So basically, I'm seeing 3 judges are sharing 2 staff members.
It's 1 executive assistant for 3 judges and 1 interpreter for the 3 courts.
So you all learn in session at the same time?
Yes. Yes. But during COVID, we staggered the court times.
So is it still staggered?
Well, yes. My division is still staggered. Courts, we have 2 sessions of court, one at 9 and another at 1:30. And I chose to leave my session at 10 and 1:30 because at one time there was conversation by the police department of increasing the details.
Because there was extremely long lines at Satchel Courts.
Right. So because we are on the lower level of 201 and all the other general sessions courts, there would be a crowd. So I thought it best for public health and safety, because we're also short our complement of court officers.
Let me ask you this question. So, in terms of staffing, would it make your office more efficient if you had another? Let me ask that question. Current salary for EA.
The current salary for executive assistant, I believe, is like 69, maybe 65, 60.
Would it be beneficial to have another EA?
It could possibly be beneficial to have another EA, especially in light of the actions that the council is taking, but not yet, the third and final reading. It might be possible, because that was going to be my caveat to all of this. There might be a need for a revisit to this budget if the judges are tasked with.
So assuming that, the third and final reading goes just like the first reading did, and this becomes the law of the city of Memphis, how do you anticipate the municipal judges having to operate differently? Because you said right now it works, but I could probably use another assistant. It seems like now, if what I believe to be probably inevitable, this law becomes the law of the city of Memphis, how would you structure your office differently?
Those are questions that have to be addressed and answered, how we'd structure it. Right now, it would seem that the court clerk would still reside in the same location they're in, but if they will fall under the purview of the judges, then would it be incumbent upon us to also include them in our budget? And
everybody's looking at
Chief Ryan.
So Unfortunately, I don't think we have an answer today, but I think we definitely need to talk about this because also what happens is the city court clerk's office, there are clerks that are placed in the courtrooms. So there are some folks in the complement there as well that support the function of the judge's courtroom. And so I think a conversation would be ripe for us to have at this point, now that it has passed and we know that it is most likely a reality for us to, engage in those conversations. I would love for us to, and with finance, about, where the budget would sit, because I believe a council lady, Roberts, asked a question about that. So these are all things that we definitely need to bring
because
back
it's
and
two
address.
separate. TVB is one separate division, and the city court clerk it is totally different. And under the city court clerk, there are 3 clerks assigned to each division for the city courts. So where, they wouldn't fall under TVB, they'd fall under the city court clerk. So there are discussions that need to be had, and I'm proactive in my approach. I don't like to wait until January 1st, 2024, and then we have to come up with things. So I reached out to Houston and put in to get maybe a job qualifications for the position.
Are you ready?
I know, yeah. I mean, everybody voted and one abstained. I know how to count. And I'm proactive. I'm not going to wait until the third and final reading to look at this and come up. I wanted to have it also as the administrative judge. Once I get the information, I can do like I'm supposed to, take it to the other 2 judges. This is what I've gotten from Houston for their clerk, and this is and these are requirements. So at the end of the day, we'll have it.
So I guess my question is, how soon will y'all have that conversation? Because I feel like wrap-up is tomorrow in my mind. Every day seems the same. We're doing a lot of these budget hearings.
I do feel like I'm in the same day over and over again. Groundhog Day, that's what I was looking for.
Definitely Groundhog. So my question is, how soon would y'all have the conversation? Hopefully y'all can have some type of preliminary conversation prior to wrap-up, because
wrap-up is next week, right? Is it next week or the week after?
Starting Wednesday.
Okay.
Whether it's an email or just having a conversation, it seems like we may need to be looking to add at least one more staff member in the office.
I believe we should be able to have a conversation before the last wrap up is the 25th, the 24th, 25th. I'm going to shoot for us to have some sort of understanding by the 24th, but after this meeting, I will speak with the judge and make sure that our schedules, we can get something accomplished. I'll move around whatever I need to move around for us to have a conversation. That would be great.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Logan. Okay. Great. Colleagues, any other questions for the judge? Okay. Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you. No, it's a long time ago. That might as well be.
But have a good evening, Judge. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, judges.
Thank you.
Colleagues, that is the last one, and
This is the first
Clay, I'm
time.
2 minutes behind.
This is the first time.
Is there any, keep in mind, colleagues, we do not meet tomorrow. However, now, Councilman Warren will be here with Chief Ryan. I think they'll be the only two here. But